do you see the adoption is the biggest? Because it sounds like it's very universal, solutions and platforms now, right? So which industries, I would say, which companies are more, yeah.
I would say, and someone may kick me for saying this, but where there's the biggest cost impact, where you can save a tremendous amount of money virtually overnight, those tend to be relatively quick decisions, relatively quick
Repetitive, right? Operational.
launches,
Yeah.
where it's scale. Anything that you have, and it can be complicated, but anytime you have the same process or the same questions that are at very high volume, it makes tremendous business value to do this. There's also I hate to say a geographical bias, but there are certain countries that have really aggressive innovation cultures, that they pride themselves on their comfort with new technology and their ability to leverage new technology. Singapore, we might think of as one that has traditionally, it's kind of part of their DNA, part of their culture, very agile use of new technology, that if something works, they are all in and very quick to implement. Same with a lot of countries in the Middle East, including the UAE, that if you can prove that something works, they are very aggressive to be the first to get that benefit out of it. And we can argue that that's culture, that's history, but there are certain parts of the world that have kind of put in how they think. If we can leverage good technology, that if we can use this, we can advance not just from a company perspective, but as a country perspective.
Oh, totally. You know what? In preparation to our talk, I discovered a lot myself. For instance, when particular industry, insurance, I am giving the example, more conservative industry, right? They don't jump on every emergent technology, and we just not using AR and VR when we filing the claims or when we looking for policy, right? But what I'm finding out that what you mentioned, the conversational nature of request makes such a tremendous difference in more conservative, let's say, traditional industries, don't you think?
And it's funny that you mentioned that. Conversational banking is one of the top items because we can verify that it's you. All of the different, because of the virus, many of us don't have physical branches that are open. It's more difficult for us to go into a bank and talk to a person than it was 12 months ago. So we're finding an increased demand for people to be able to do their banking conversationally, and it works very well. In terms of security, in terms of encryption, it's a very safe and secure way to do it. And they're finding that many customers prefer to do it, both on the consumer banking side as well as on the commercial banking side.
Fantastic. I'm still thinking consumer, because we want to talk to our gadgets over here.
Well, let me give a good example. What if you could go to an ATM and you no longer needed an ATM card? What if, and this technology exists now, that you can verify yourself, that you can get a one-time PIN code, so you no longer need to worry about the ATM, that it can verify it's you, and all of this is done through conversational AI. And if you're a bank and ATM cards cost a certain amount of money, if you can eliminate the need to care for physical cards, you now have a much more attractive ATM because people don't need to remember their card in order to get cash out.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, so promise is out there, right, at fingertips. So let me ask you, how difficult it is to implement a project that includes this new technology now, because we know it all sounds good and easy. So what's the hurdles? What's the kind of
It varies, being very transparent, it varies based on the size. If you have a project that is hundreds and hundreds of intents, what we call the questions and answers, the actions, it can take several weeks. Often that is about internal processes and what people need to go through. Well, let's give a real life example. You are a company and you run a customer service operation. Okay, we're going to take your most frequently asked questions and we're going to put those into a conversational assistant for you. Okay, maybe that is about 30 days worth of work, but if you don't already have that pulled together. If you as a company need to do some internal research, that can add on to the length of the project. So our amount of time in it is relatively minor. It's really the amount of time the company needs to get their processes sorted and whatever they need to do so that they can hand that off to us and we can get started with implementing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's actually lots of still sales and marketing applications, right? I mean, I don't know, in
Sales
manufacturing.
marketing, a lot of reporting. We're seeing a lot of people using this to create an invoice. We're seeing a lot of people, because most larger companies have multiple databases, multiple systems that they use for their finances. We see quite a bit of interest in, tell me this week's reports, this week's numbers. Tell me how that compares to last week's numbers and maybe this time last year. Well, to have a junior clerk pull all of that information from different sources and to put them into pretty arts and charts, that's significant time. That's maybe a couple of hours of work for someone to just answer a quick question. Conversationally, I can do that in real time. So I'm in the board meeting. I'm just asked a question that I don't know the answer to.
Mhm.
I can, very quietly, text it and message it. And now I get the answer visualized in the company look, in the company format. And I've got that on the screen in front of the board within seconds because of all the integrations to the different systems and the ability to visualize that data in real time. So that becomes a very impressive tool. And again, not customer facing, not necessarily back office, but as a management tool, I want our numbers and I want our numbers in the way I want to think, compare this to this to this, show it this way, and that can be done in real time.
Okay, that's a big promise. That's a big promise. What
And
about?
the technologies exist. It is a promise of something we can deliver because all of those technologies are proven. We've just pulled them together in a way that maybe someone else has not yet.